Six commissioners. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we've approved our minutes from the March 23rd dual meeting and approved the accounts payable vouchers and the payroll docket. Can I entertain a motion to accept as submitted?
I move we approve the minutes from our meeting and the dual meeting and the account payable vouchers and the payroll docket as presented.
I second. All those in favor signify by aye. So moved. Okay, Mr. Mark, you have the floor.
Well, that was quick.
Try and get you out of here, brother.
I was looking at these other items on. We, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. We start them out early. That's my grandson and I out there in October. So,
Looks a lot different than that out there now, doesn't
yeah,
it?
it does. So you'll keep that. That's some history there for you. I've got Jack Lawson with me today and, James Shireman back here. Gotta get my notes out here so I can remember. Want to take a minute and say thanks to some folks too. Anytime we get a chance, we'd like to do that. I'd like to personally thank Heather Huff and Sarah Morgan. They've done a great job working with us here and keeping us out of trouble, helping keep me out of trouble. The three commissioners, you guys, and especially Bob Little, you know, Bob has got that construction background. As I've said before, he stays up with us. He spends a lot of hours out there with us, helping us think through things. John Shainstein has gotten really involved with us out here, and Brett Roberts, your facility guy, is starting to hang out with us a lot so he can learn the systems, what we're doing, and that's very important. We've got an excellent team of contractors out on site. I know you never know when you have a public bid opening what you're gonna get, but we got a great team out there working collaboratively, and they care a lot and take a lot of pride in their work, and you all have seen that. We have a third-party testing company, Atlas Testing, that's been out testing soils and concrete and steel and asphalt, and all that testing has been going very well. And a lot of that is because we've built a contractor team and a camaraderie out there where they take pride in their work. There's a lot of other testing requirements in the specs, chapter after chapter. This is all being done, will be gathered up and put in the owner maintenance manuals and closeout documents when the time comes. DLZ, we were very happy. DLZ engineers have been out a couple of times recently and inspected the work mostly above the ceiling. They're very pleased with the quality and haven't seen anything any better quality than what we're getting out here in Jefferson County, which we're very happy about. I want to talk to you about a couple of things, and I'm not asking for more money. That's one of those transfer things. So anyway, it's not unusual, especially in jail projects. And it's not unusual that when things kind of get framed up and you kind of see where you are, that you find that maybe there's a more efficient way to operate a building. And then the next 40 years, it's important that all the people flow and everything be efficient. So Bob Little and Shane Steen and several others, including the architect, saw a way that we needed to move some things around out there. You know, this is about the administrative area, move some things around and this stuff up. And it affects 4 different contractors. Got another page here somewhere. Guys, let's see where, oh, here it is. So it affects 4 different contractors. It's mostly work that we did around in the administrative area, moving walls around and moving a lot of things around to make it much more efficient. So the top one there is EH Construction. We call it proposal request 15. It's upgrades in the administration area. And then we had to move a block wall for a transformer to fit better. That's the first one. That's $29,103. The next one is Pauley Jail Company, and theirs is $1,142 for the work in that area. The next one is Link Electric. Is the upgrades in there. We had to revise some TV receptacles to get different controls on those. We had to move some circuits around and trip ratings and things like that. It's 15,821. You know, Bob, you're gonna ask me to total this here in a minute, and I'm not gonna have that. But then there should be Link Electric. Yeah, Link, no, it's Hussing. Hussing had to move things around and make all that work, and that was 25,000. And so what we'd like to do, and Bob Little, like I say, he was with us every step of the way, and he knows all the details of this. But what we need to do is get those signed. So we'll let you all keep a copy and let me have a copy. DLZ, which is Phil Wink, as you can see, DLZ has signed on it and they're okay with all of it. That's Phil Wink down in the lower right hand. And myself, and then the contractor. So it's all been checked and double checked, all good. And so again, there's 5 contractors out there, 4 of them were involved in this. And we wanted to get your blessing, get those signed and make that all formalized in a formal change order. So that's kind of, gentlemen, that's kind of what, I guess that's kind of the end of my presentation, so to speak. But if y'all have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
Estimated date when it's gonna be.
We're looking at a midsummer or late summer substantial completion. But there's a lot of owner training and working out all the salt. There's gonna be a lot of tweaking in the software, tweaking in the security. You know, Bob a little mentioned that in the news article. So before inmates get moved, we'll have to make sure it works well. We will, but so it's gonna be, you know, substantially complete mid to late summer, and then we'll be, you know, we're probably got at least a month or so just tweaking stuff out before we can move in. Okay, so I don't have an exact date, but we're closing in. Our number one priority is, as I keep saying, is we want to get the highest quality that we can get. And that sometimes takes a little bit more than what we want, but we want good quality. Okay.
I can assure you of that, because
Yeah.
I've made note of a lot of that, a lot of times,
Appreciate
quality,
that,
what the guys
Yeah.
do as far as their electrical and plumbing, and it doesn't show, but
It's
it's
all
there.
hidden in the walls and then
Yeah.
above the ceiling. But you know, 40 years from now, we want people talking about the high quality of this building. And that's what's most important. The staffing cost in the next 40 years is gonna far outweigh the investment in the building. So we gotta make sure that's right.
it should be less, it's more efficient.
Well, that's right. Oh, but it's a big number.
Yes. Agreed.
40 years of staff.
You want the tally on that?
I just, well, if you got it, Bob, that's okay.
I come up with $68,066.
I'm just,
Give or take it.
we have to sign each one of those, so there's 4 of them there to sign.
You shouldn't have it.
Because you get a sign.
And then if you can sign each one of those, there's, like I say, there's 4 of them down there in the low, where is that, upper right hand, where is that, Ron? Upper right hand, yeah, in that upper right hand area. And you all keep a couple of those here and I'll go out with one. If it's in you, okay.
I move we accept the change orders as presented for. I got a little higher now, not like 71, but pretty close to that 70,000 for the changes in the administration areas.
Okay. Have a motion, have a second?
I second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. So carries. Okay. This would be me, wouldn't
Mhm.
it? 4, 6, 20.
It's up to- you have Each one, each copy? or just-
I mean,
or just
Bob can
the-
sign them all, anybody.
No, no,
Yeah, there should be 4 in there where you gotta
Four,
sign, you
yeah.
see what I mean? We gotta leave Sarah and Heather get one, and I'll go out the door with the other. My grandson, they're at a ball game tonight, and I think I can make something if I get back to Lanesville. Appreciate you letting us up first.
Okay, I'll do the other for you later. Okay,
Is
thanks,
that
Mark.
it? Okay,
Appreciate you.
let me check real quick here. I'm just double checking you, Bob. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Be careful going back.
All right, thank you.
Careful.
Hey, Jack.
See you, Jack.
Take care, well.
Angela, you have the floor, dear.
Well, I'm Angela Russell, and I happen to be the president of the Pilot Club of Madison right now. And we're just requesting that we can set up around the courthouse for Old Court Days. And that will be May the 26th, 27th, and 28th, and then September 29th and the 30th, and October the 1st this year. We change with Chautauqua in the September if they're going to be at a different time. I'm very proud. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we just had our 50th anniversary of Pilot Club in Madison. And so we celebrated that last Saturday. And that was really nice. So we're always doing things in the community. All kinds of service ordinance, you know.
I know the ladies that attend our car show really like to go up there too, so that works out well.
Good timing.
Yep. Okay,
So move, we accept the proposal to allow the pilot club to put on Old Porch Days during May 26th, 27th, and 28th of this year, and then September 29th, 30th, and October 1st.
I second that.
any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Thank you very
So be
much.
it. Okay. Bernice.
I think this is the first time I've come here and not had like the billing papers for you guys. Well, I just come bringing trying to be a bearer of good news. Remember sometime last year, I approached you guys and just made you aware of a funding opportunity from the federal government called the Affordable Connectivity Program. They have an outreach grant. And good news that CRPC was selected as one of the recipients. So we're working through, we submitted a budget for a little over 550, well, just under actually 550,000. The FCC gave us a little slip back and said to bring it down to 500,000. So we are in the midst of shaving off some of that budget, but I think about the last couple of weeks, April or May, when I submit the revised budget on Monday, that's about the time frame for when they'll think that we'll have a final decision whether they'll approve that amount or not. And just to recap what the Affordable Connectivity Program is, that is a benefit program that can help eligible households and individuals afford internet. As we know, broadband build out is something that we've been working on since I've been hired as a fellow and, stayed on permanently at the CRPC. And part of the reason that this program is important is not only just so, yes, people can access affordable internet, but because that is tied to, increasing that adoption that we want, that providers frankly want to see. They want to know that the broadband that they're working with the communities to invest in will get them the return that they want. So really, they're pushing, a lot of the major providers are pushing it themselves. They'll have their own media that they push this to. This outreach grant is specifically for organizations like SerPC, like our partners who are River Valley Resources, Jefferson County United Way, and Scott County's United Way, who teamed up with us to help not just the people that are already in our network, as far as our reach can go, to be able to access and participate in this program. So we're really excited. I will keep you updated on what the final amount is, but that's all that I have for you for now. Here to answer any questions if you have any. You know where to find me, you know. Just a side note, Patty did say that you wanted to contact me about a road project, so I'll be emailing you. Let me in on that. So yeah, I was just told to give you a heads up about that.
Like the easement or something?
I think it was with 62.
So we talked about some planning down around
Yes.
62. So
Yes.
not necessarily a road per se, but
Yeah, it was
development around the road.
Yes, development, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so just want to let you know, we'll begin with you about that.
so on their feedback about cutting a little bit from your budget, did they sound pretty positive that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean, it's.
it wouldn't seem like they tell you to cut it and then go, we're not gonna give it to you.
Exactly, yeah,
So-
they just, sent back a letter saying the target allocation was 500,000. So, which, I mean, that's most of what we asked for, so having to shave off just that little, well, it's not really little, but in terms of federal money, I guess 48,000 is like chump change, so.
Unfortunately.
I know, it would be lovely if we could consider 48,000 chump change. But yeah, so I'm pretty confident that that will be approved from just the different webinars that they've had for recipients. It sounds like as long as you don't go over that target allocation, you shouldn't have to fight any much harder for what they give you. So I'm pretty positive we'll get that. I would, I would be frankly disappointed if they're asking us to shave off more. So I think 500,000 for what we are, us and our partners are promising, but this project is going to be really impactful for what we want for our region, and even outside of SerPC region, due to with the help of our partners that can help us expand. But of course, Jefferson being in the heart of that, it's gonna be some amazing work, we hope, if we're successful. It'll also provide us personnel, so there'll be later, again, once I get the final yes and the final numbers, we'll know what we have to hire personnel to help us with this. So you might be in the future meeting a couple new faces to help us with this, but yeah, we just are glad to share this good news with you. Looking forward to always having your help and support in the way that we try to team together with the county and, just help all of our residents in our communities within Jefferson get broadband.
True connectivity.
Yes, I know, it's wonderful.
Thanks for the good news.
Yeah, my pleasure. You are. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your hard work.
I try.
Okay. Mr. Josh.
Josh Klein, the building inspector and zoning enforcement officer. As you guys know, I try to go around and get some of the properties and stuff cleaned up around the community, and sometimes I really struggle with some of the, I'd like to say, smaller problems like trash cleanup and grass and stuff like that. It's sometimes not as major as having 40 or 50 cars piled up on your property, so they drag it.
You look forward to just a little trash as opposed to 40 or 50 cars piled up on you.
Yeah, the only problem comes in that really we have a lengthy process. It usually takes eight months to over a year to
8 years,
ever
maybe.
get something done. And, for instance, I had one in Deputy that they had Johnson grass that was over your head. And I just couldn't get anybody out there to mow it, and the process was about 9 months later before we can actually go out there and do something, and they finally mowed it a week before, come time, but, and the grass was dead at that time, but those kind of problems, and then, unsafe buildings that we have in the area. I got looking into, trying to get some of that taken care of, and I talked to Pat about our unsafe building ordinance. And he said it really wasn't adopted correctly, back in 1986. So he's looked at it and come up with a amendment to that so that we can hopefully make things a little simpler for us to take care of some of these properties that are in violation a little quicker and a little bit cheaper for the county, not dragging it out so long. Anything you want to say about it, Pat?
So the county has already adopted the unsafe building code, and that's ordinance, and the general ordinance is 36793. But when that happens, they adopted Indiana Code 36791 through 36728, which is good. That's the entire statute on the unsafe building code. But it didn't provide a lot of detail as far as how the county was actually going to utilize the unsafe building statute. So for example, it set out that the building inspector was going to be the executive department. And then it provided a definition of substantial property interest, but didn't really go beyond that. So this unsafe building code, what's good about it is that the state legislature set up a process, which is more of an administrative process, that allows for the building inspector's office to actually then send out orders for compliance, not only with buildings themselves, but also unsafe properties, including vermin, weeds, just situations where the property itself has become unsafe for surrounding properties. And then if the person chooses not to contest that order, then it becomes final in 10 days. And his office can then go ahead and start moving forward on remediation process. If the person does want to challenge it, then they can ask for a hearing in front of the hearing authority. That would be the commissioners. And so then there would be a time for an administrative hearing before the commissioners to hear, basically from the building inspector, what the issue is, and then hear from the property owner or anybody with a substantial interest in the property, actually, why they think the remediation efforts shouldn't be happening, or why there should be more time, or any of those things. And if the commissioners can then either agree with the building inspector, reverse the building inspector, or even modify the building inspector's decision and say, okay, now this is what the order is going to be. And then that becomes final in 10 days. And then there is a process to appeal that to the court if necessary. So it doesn't remove the ability of someone to challenge it, or to even have their day in court if that's what's required. But what it does provide is in some of these situations where, there are situations where the property owner has not shown an interest in contesting it. But nonetheless, the way that the current setup, particularly with the property maintenance codes, both in the zoning ordinance and the nuisance ordinance, they all require enforcement through court action, which, honestly, we've had a number of those cases that have been by default. So it's the property owners haven't really been even disputing it. But nonetheless, in order to get that enforcement authority to go onto the property and actually get it cleaned up and get it taken care of, we have to have a court order to make that happen. This statute, which again, the county has already issued an ordinance that accepts the statute as part of the ordinance, allows for a quicker proceeding. It just didn't previously have sort of the detail of who it is that's supposed to be doing what and how that's supposed to happen. So this ordinance that's drafted, it doesn't repeal the prior ordinance. In fact, all it does is remove the prior subsection C. So subsection A and B are already in place. A is the subsection that adopts the property maintenance statute as the code. B is the section that names the building inspector as the enforcement authority. And then C then it was just a definition section before, and now it's more robust, including appointment of the hearing authority, establishment of the fund. The fund is it's a non-reverting fund that the idea is that it's eventually going to be self-sustaining because any costs associated with remediation projects can be put as a lien against the property and can then eventually be recovered and recouped, and that goes right back into the fund. As well as there is a penalty provision, but again, the penalty provision is right out of the Indiana code and right out of the property maintenance code. It's not anything new, it's just spelling it out. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanna read it or do you want us to read it?
It's up to you. Want me to read it?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This will be the first reading.
So because it doesn't actually establish anything new, I do believe it's the type of ordinance that you could pass unanimously by consent, you could unanimously pass on first reading, but it would have to be unanimous. It doesn't provide any new fines or provisions. So I mean, you can either do it through, several readings as you usually would, or because it doesn't establish new fines, you could do it if it's unanimous. by one reading.
Okay.
You want me to read?
Sure.
Okay, so this is an ordinance amending the unsafe building law and amending ordinance 1986-03 36793. And then skipping some of the formal portions that the Board of Commissioners has previously adopted the unsafe building law. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of Jefferson County, State of Indiana, that ordinance 1986-03 36793 is amended to remove the following language from subsection C. Quote, definition, for the purpose of this section, the following definition shall apply unless the context clearly indicates or requires a different meaning. Substantial property interest. The definition of substantial property interest contained in Indiana Code 36792 is incorporated by reference into this section. Close quote. Ordinance 1986-03 36793 is further amended to add the following language to subsection C. C, procedure. 1, appointment of a hearing authority. The Board of Commissioners of Jefferson County is hereby designated as the hearing authority in accordance with provisions of Indiana Code 36792. The hearing authority shall perform those functions specified by the Indiana Unsafe Building Law. 2, unsafe building fund established. An unsafe building fund is established in the operating budget of the Jefferson County Building Inspector in accordance with provisions of Indiana Code 367-914 as follows. The fund will receive an original revenue from a donation ordinance. Thereafter, the fund will receive revenue from the general fund and be repaid or recovered, and from repaid or recovered costs of enforcement and demolition. B, the fund shall be used for all expenses, including but not limited to attorney's fees incurred by the Board of Commissioners and the building inspector. C, the fund shall exist in perpetuity unless and until amended or repealed by subsequent ordinance. D, the fund balance at year's end shall carry forward to the fund budget of the next year. The fund balance shall be deposited in the general fund on termination of the funds. 3, construction. Any reference to a state statute shall mean the statute as amended from time to time or any similar statutory provisions that may supersede it relating to the same or similar subject matter. Quote, substantial property interest means any right in real property that may be affected in a substantial way by actions authorized by this chapter, including a fee interest, a life estate interest, a future interest, a mortgage interest, or an equitable interest of a contract purchaser. 4, penalty for violation. Violations of this ordinance shall be addressed as established in Indiana Code, Chapter 36-7-9, as it may be amended from time to time, including but not limited to A, the issuance of an order requiring remediation action pursuant to Indiana Code 36795. B, the issuance of a continuous enforcement order under Indiana Code 367-9-7 and or multiple civil penalties up to the allowed amount by Indiana Code 36-7-9-7, currently $5,000 per. C, the issuance of an emergency action remediating immediate danger under Indiana Code 367-9-9. D, liability for costs for performance of work required by order under Indiana Code 367-9-11 and 12. E, imposition of a judgment lien for unpaid costs under Indiana Code 36-7-9-13 and 13.5. 5, severability. Should any section, paragraph, sentence, clause, or any other provision of this ordinance be declared by a court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid for any reason, the remaining provisions shall not be affected. If and only if such remaining provisions can, without the invalid provisions or provisions, be given the effect intended by the council in adopting this ordinance. To this end, the provisions of the ordinance are severable. Repeal. All parts of the previous ordinance in conflict with herewith are repealed to the extent of said conflicts. Effective date. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance with Indiana Code 365-2-10. And then the foregoing ordinance was passed and adopted, etc.
Okay.
We just do 2 readings and we can go. Go on, just do 2 readings. And then-
Table it till the next reading then. Okay. Ms. Troy around. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I'm easy to overlook.
It's been a rough day.
Well, since we just left talked about a little about nuisances, I thought I'd maybe help out a little bit. The 2023 difficult amnesty disposal days, stay on nuisances here in a minute. Jefferson County, we have an opportunity with, the SEIRD group out at the JPG to get rid of some tires, electronics and refrigeration appliances for free. And there are days that each county gets. Jefferson County gets May 12th and 13th. And all this is on their website. The electronics are June 23rd and 24th. And the refrigerants are 21st and 22nd. So
July.
July, yes, July. So May, June, and July, you can, in May, you can, on the May 12th and 13th, you can take up to 4 tires at no charge. And drop them off. June 23rd and 24th, you can take 1 screened electronic. Your 87-inch
Yeah.
screen that you don't no longer got busted, whatever, you can drop it off there at no charge. And on July 21st and 22nd, you can take 1 refrigerant bearing item per residence. So that's an old air conditioner that's busted, or a refrigerator, or something on the refrigerator at no charge. So it's just something for, and I'll leave that with you guys. That's on the website. And we've got that in our office too. The other thing I want to talk to you today about is you guys were generous enough to appoint me as the ADA coordinator and Title VI coordinator. And I've been doing a little quick digging on some of the things that are required of that position and some of the things that are required of the county. And it's really all designed to help make sure that we are open and accessible to all people, which is great. I mean, I really, it's something I'm passionate about. But I brought you a handout too, because I don't expect you to remember all that stuff, but one of the things that I found was that this is also related to highway funds. And last year we had $1 million in federal highway funds. So it's valuable, and I think Bobby Phelps is around here somewhere. He'll tell you in the future, it's important to.
Outside the norm, yeah.
So he likes to pass. But here, you pass these down. I'm not gonna go through all that. I'm just gonna go through the first section on requirements, because I think that's probably the most critical. It kind of lays out the rest of it. It's got some recommendations, development, and other things. The ADA requires that all programs and facilities, including everything from websites, public outreach policies, or city buildings, parks, and sidewalks, be evaluated for ADA compliance. A second requirement is measuring all features of facilities and maintaining a record is required. Number 3 is assessing programs and identifying areas of non-compliance is required. And the self-evaluation will form the basis for prioritization schedule in the ADA transition plan. And Josh did a great job last year. In fact, 2021, he wrote the plan. In 2022, he corrected a lot of the issues he found. But with his assignments, as you can tell, he's been pretty doggone busy. In fact, we were in court today, but so we've been busy. And we will continue to be busy, but I think what I can do to help with this is, and I've talked to some consultants, and I think I told you last time when I came up, there was a firm that said they could probably do it for us, but really we would need to get some bids for advice of counsel for doing that. And this position really in this program really requires us to step up and keep track of things and keep good records. And quite frankly, I haven't found them yet. I'm still looking. I found some you did, Bobby.
I found some that Josh did, but we need to do a much better job. And I think with these consultants and the proposals I'm getting, I got two. One that Bobby sent me from 2020. I've got one in so far, and we've got several inquiries about doing it. So we got to the end of April to get those in, and I'll bring those to you and we'll see what we can do. But I also looked at the budget. And last year on ADA, we spent $13,880 on ADA, fixing up what needed to be fixed up. This year I found $5,000 in a budget, in the courthouse budget. So I think we're a little short on our money just right off the bat, if I had to say something, especially if I'm going to get a survey done. So I just want to make you guys aware of that. I'm also going to present this to the council when they meet next week. So that everyone's aware of what we're trying to do. Because I think it's critically important that we fund it. And we have got some money in the fund, but I think it's woefully short from what we're gonna use, especially compared to what we did last year.
But I think we can split up the actual projects of fixing stuff, probably from the Cume Courthouse Fund, because that is fixing it up that way, and the administration side. So,
Okay,
so I think we've got funds for fixing up the courthouse, so we should be able to use those to,
well, this is all buildings, like we're talking the courthouse, we're talking.
well, that's,
Health department.
we use it
All over.
in every building.
Yeah.
Great,
So
okay,
I think we can use those funds for the actual projects, and then I think there's some part-time funds in your budget or the plan commission budget. I think there was 25,000 part-time work, not on enforcement or anything, but the part-time that we might be able to use, at least get started with. By the time we get everything awarded and stuff, see what the would be for this year, and then get things into the budget for next year.
well, last year, although our budget doesn't show it, I don't know why, we spent about almost $12,000 in nuisance abatement. That includes a demolition. I think Josh has got a little project he's starting next week. How many cars, Josh?
Quite a few.
Quite a few. Let's put it this way. It's more than 24 cars we gotta get rid of. So, I mean, we've got some projects that are gonna really drive that number up this year. And
So there's another fund out there for cleanup, in addition to this fund, the part-time help. And
This was actual part-time help money. The projects for the cleanup, I believe, was paid unappropriated, and then when that money comes back in from the taxes, it'll pay county general back.
I remember there was a line item in lit for cleanup.
Okay, so there's that.
25,000.
it's 25.
But the
This-
25,000 is in county general that could be
Okay,
used for the
okay.
administration.
So we've got another 25, what you're saying.
Well, we have money for cleanup.
Mhm.
We have funds for that set aside, but then there's 25 for part-time help. I thought it was under the plan commission. I think there's a part-time help
Okay.
line there that we might be able to do, at least get this contract started with the consultant.
Okay.
And I think it's, someone who's that's their job. They stay up to date on ADA compliance requirements, and that's what they do. So we can just take advantage of that.
Well, I think that's gonna be an ongoing expense too.
Oh, yeah.
Once we get that.
Well, every,
Because that stuff changes monthly.
every 2 years, I think you have to update your plan. So,
Well, actually, you have to,
You have to update it every year, but every 5 years, you have to basically rewrite it, but you have to update it every year.
and
I
you
think
have,
as long as you've already started showing, okay, here's the projects we're gonna do, and you did them all in 1 year, but I think as long as you've got a plan for getting those projects.
I think probably, when I was working on that, the problem was, I think I wasn't just getting it all wrote up correctly.
Well,
I'm
sure,
sending them stuff and they're saying, well, that's not the way we like to see it.
Hmm.
So I was struggling with a lot of that and. I
Well,
just-
these
I didn't have
guys-
the time to dedicate to
Sure.
it that I should, so.
no, I mean, I think you've got a good start, buildings in the county better than the consultant will, but you've got that started, and that's what they do, like you said.
well, the other thing we have to do, and the other thing I'm asking the consultants to do is do a survey. We have to do a survey and with measurements and angles of ramps and angles of incline on the doorways and the approaches. So I mean, we have to have a record of that, which we don't have, quite frankly. And we need to keep track of that, which we don't have.
Sure.
So we need to start doing that. So just so you're aware, all that's in that document there in front of you. So it's not just a go out and fix what you think's broken. It's basically, you gotta keep track of it. Then you have to report it back and keep track of it so that when somebody comes down, we've got a record and they can see what our record has been. And I think it's good to check and balance, but also, you know, again, that it was mentioned in the letter where we weren't quite hitting all those marks, that the highway funds depend on us being able to hit those marks.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that first of all, we have accessibility for everybody. And second of all, if there's money out there that depends on that we're able to access that. So I guess that's what I'm talking about. So when you see these bills come in, they may seem a little bit high, but also there's a reward for doing it, for doing the work too. That makes sense, fellow? So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and once we get the proposals in, I'll let you guys see them, see what the numbers are, and we can talk about how we want to fund it. Because the way the bid is written, it's not the lowest bid, it's the one that meets our needs. So that's what I'm looking for, is someone that's going to be able to support us in doing what we need to do. Because we got a lot on our plate in the surveyor's office, but we also want to do the right job. If we can't do the right job, I'll let you guys know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I put together a scorecard or something, how we're gonna look through the proposals. I mean, I've got a couple of examples I can send you just to get started. It just helps. Cause you know, sometimes it's, well, I like this guy, but you know, he really doesn't meet one. But if he meets it and we like him, I'm all for working with someone you like. That's driven a lot of our hires over the years.
That's
So,
good. You did it with stormwater, I think, didn't you?
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, if you have that, I can send you a blank one and just kind of start from there and things that are important and. It just. Makes evaluation a little more. Always mix them up,
Objective.
now, rather than subjective, yeah,
There you go. Objective.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and I'm an engineer and I like numbers, because that's what you end up with at the end. Number on
I'd like to publicly thank Josh and Pat for their work on this nuisance and the unsafe building code. I think that'll help us a lot because we do have some structures that we question out there. But it's kind of hard to work on. By the time we get approval and the costing and everything down, it's either fallen down or something else has happened to it, or they've sold it, whatever. But I think they've done a great job on doing that.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for me?
You can tell by the people that show up at the planning commission meetings. The word's getting out, people are starting to come in and,
Yeah.
I mean.
All right, we'll make one sit in a BZA too. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay, now, Troy.
No,
There he is. Just mention his name.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So you go.
I left you guys a couple of pages before we get started with the other here. Drought monitor, still clear. And the other page is the progress report from Brook Engineering for the multi-hazard mitigation plan. And you'll see that it's been zeroed out as far as progress and the finances and all of that. So with that as a segue, the purpose of presenting that plan this evening is to adopt the multi-hazard mitigation plan. And just a couple of bullet items that I think are worth mentioning is that it's not a new plan. It's a revision to an existing plan that we've had for almost 20 years as the county. It's a plan that's required by FEMA, and FEMA provides us with the grant money opportunity to fund the revision of the plan. And that's on a 75%, 25% match. The 25% match, we were able to acquire our total through man hour, so it didn't cost us any actual dollars. Of course, the purpose of the plan is to identify mitigation goals for the 5 years moving forward. But FEMA also ties that to our county as a community's eligibility for FEMA grant funding for the next 5 years, which is where the requirement comes in, because if we don't do it, we're not eligible.
They would tie a string to the plan.
They do, it's got a big string. Anyway, when it was advertised, we were gonna adopt it, ask you to adopt it this evening.
We were gonna accept comments through end of business tomorrow. We have only had one public comment that's been through the official channels by email or phone. That individual had issue with the language in the plan that said political hazards or political disaster. And I told them that that was essentially the new FEMA buzzword for civil unrest. So that seemed to appease their concerns, so. But that was the only comment that I received since it's been advertised. The county's adoption deadline is April 15th. And then I have also sent a copy of the plan and request for adoption to all the other incorporated communities within Jefferson County, and they have until June 1st to review and adopt that. And then, as mentioned in the resolution, if there's any additions or corrections of that, the resolution will address how those should be handled. So, if you want to move forward with the resolution or any questions or.
Sure. Want to read it? Want me to read it?
I told Bobby I would, but if you
Oh,
want to,
go
absolutely,
ahead.
go right ahead. I
We
won't,
speaking
I
up.
won't fight you for
We
it,
speak.
but I'll be happy to do it. Resolution 2023-05, resolution of Jefferson County adopting the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 6, 2023. Whereas the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners recognizes the threat that natural hazards pose to people and property within Jefferson County, and whereas Jefferson County has prepared a multi-hazard mitigation plan hereby known as the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 6, 2023, in accordance with federal law, including the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act as amended, the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 as amended, and the National Dam Safety Program Act as amended. And whereas Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 6, 2023 identifies mitigation goals and actions to reduce or eliminate long-term risks to people and property in Jefferson County from the impacts of future hazards and disasters. And whereas adoption by the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners demonstrates its commitment to hazard mitigation and achieving the goals outlined in the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 6, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved by the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners, Indiana, that Section 1, in accordance with Jefferson County Ordinance 36-1-3-1, the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners adopts the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 6, 2023. While content related to Jefferson County may require revisions to meet the plan approval requirements, changes occurring after adoption will not require Jefferson County to re-adopt any further iterations of the plan. Subsequent plan updates following the approval period for this plan will require separate adoption resolutions. Adopted this 6th day of April 2023, the Board of Commissioners of Jefferson County, State of Indiana.
I move we accept the resolution 2023-05, adopting the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 6, 2023.
I second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Perfect. I'm gonna make a joke.
I know, that one line.
That one line. Is that national safety program? It is not national.
Which one?
Yeah. The dam safety.
Oh, yeah, safety, yeah.
I've heard people call it many things, but I've never found
All the spelling.
House bill.
That's exactly right. That's all I have. Thank you very much. You have any questions for me?
All those in favor, signify.
No, I'm sorry.
But
You already did that.
You kind of did. I got in the way, but just.
I got caught up in the funny moment.
Check.
Okay.
But I did have people that lived in, relatives of my wife, Pennsylvania. The dam that broke there. And I would have to believe that this is where kind of it came out of.
Probably.
I can't remember the name of it. I mean, Johnstown, yeah,
Johnstown.
yeah, I was gonna say Jamestown.
Well, I think all the history buffs in there.
Flat shot, a hockey movie.
There you go. There you go. And I will say, like I said, the comments for the county portion of that is through to the business. And then I would assume that as part of the adoption process for the other incorporated municipalities, they'll have a comment period as well. So for anybody watching or listening, I would assume if they're a resident of the town of Brooksburg or the town of Hanover, they would have the same opportunity to comment to those folks as well.
You said June 1st?
June 1st. Yeah, is their deadline. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the ordinance reading repealing the existing zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance and maps, and adopt the unified development ordinance, otherwise known as UDO, and maps dash second reading.
Read it. Ordinance number 2023-03, an ordinance repealing the Jefferson County, Indiana zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance and maps, and adopting the Jefferson County, Indiana Unified Development Ordinance and maps. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners is advised that the Jefferson County Plan Commission has held a public hearing following the giving of required notice on proposed repeal and replacement of the Jefferson County, Indiana zoning ordinance, Title 28, Ordinance 2004-10, subdivision control ordinance, Title 27, Ordinance 2004-2, and maps with the Jefferson County, Indiana Unified Development Ordinance and maps. And whereas said commission has given a favorable recommendation for the repeal of the Jefferson County, Indiana zoning ordinance, Title 28, Ordinance 2004-10, subdivision control ordinance, Title 27, Ordinance 2004-2, and maps, and adoption of the Jefferson County, Indiana Unified Development Ordinance and maps. Whereas this board concurs in the recommendation of said commission, now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the County of Jefferson, State of Indiana, that the Jefferson County, Indiana zoning ordinance, Title 28, Ordinance 2004-10, subdivision control ordinance, Title 27, Ordinance 2004-2, and maps are repealed. The repeal of the Jefferson County, Indiana zoning ordinance, Title 28, Ordinance 2004-10, subdivision control ordinance, Title 27, Ordinance 2004-2, and previous zoning maps shall have no retroactive application, and said provisions shall remain enforceable as to any prior existing and continuing violations. The terms of the Jefferson County, Indiana Unified Development Ordinance and maps are hereby adopted as shown in Exhibit A. The foregoing ordinance was passed and adopted by the Board of Commissioners, the County of Jefferson, State of Indiana, this day of 2023.
We can forego the third reading.
We have to make a motion and agree.
I have a question before you vote.
Sure.
Want me at the podium? Can you
Yes,
hear me
please.
from here? You guys have done a lot of work on updating the ordinance and it shows, so it looks really good. I do have a question. I see that you do add shooting ranges, which is in agricultural and business, industrial 1 and 2. And that's good. But there is no definition of shooting range in the zoning ordinance. You guys define churches, you define kennels, indoor, outdoor. There is nothing, and you have 2 different ranges, indoor and outdoor. That is a statutorily defined through the state. I can read that to you through the Indiana Code if you like. And that's IC 1422-31.5.3. And a shooting range is defined in section 3 in this chapter. A shooting range means an area designed and operated for use of archery rifles, shotguns, pistols, muskets, or similar firearms that are fired at silhouettes, skeet, trap, paper, stillboard, or other targets. So you've gone to great detail in your definitions to define all these other uses, but that one's missing. And I think that means that, I don't know if you guys will go through a second reading now, without addressing that definition. I did print out your definitions if you need me to do that, if you don't have a copy here.
Warnock, the president of the Jefferson County Planning Commission, and I would agree that definition for a shooting range should be included. It's been overlooked as such. I would like to ask a little bit. We have been aware that by all probability, we're going to need to make some other small revisions that don't come up until you start using these on a day-to-day basis. Do you feel that it is important enough that it be immediately defined, or would it be all right over the next few months when we look at revisions that need to be made, that we're certain that we include that definition at that time?
Well, as far as my personal position, it's nothing that needs to be in the ordinance that you guys are adopting right now and going through your readings. I'm sure there'll be other revisions that come up. And you've tried to address those, but for some reason, shooting range isn't defined. So that is a concern. That's the reason that I'm here today.
Well, as president of the planning commission and looking at it, I feel that it is something that we could address as we move down the road. Probably could do so very quickly. It's not just a matter of, for example, if the commissioners do not approve the plan as written, they would make a recommendation back to the plan commission. The plan commission needs to make the revision. Plan commission has to meet, vote on that condition. I don't know, we probably have to have another public hearing.
Yeah.
We probably have to have another public hearing just for that one point. And then after that, the plan commission would send it back to you again. And I think it's a much more efficient use that if we can look at it and look at a group of revisions that need to be made in 6 months that would come up and address those in one public hearing and so forth versus just doing the one this evening.
Where did you get your definition of shooting range?
It's not an Indiana code.
Why could you not just, where it says shooting range and then say under definition of Indiana code, whatever it is?
Well, let me refer to Pat McGrath. He would be better to address that.
Yes, so the section that's being cited is often called the Indiana Shooting Range Protection Act, and as it was read in, is that definition is the definition for that particular provision of the statute. So it says, you know, this section, as used in this section, the shooting range means this. And that's frequently done. Sometimes you have different definition. Well, the word can mean, can take on a different set of meanings for its particular statutory context. So I mean, that's certainly one thing you could do. You could adopt the definition from the Indiana Shooting Range Protection Act. You could adopt a different definition. Definition sections in general are used for, I mean, the sole purpose of the definition section is for the use of interpreting the ordinance. It's to provide meaning and interpretation to the rest of the ordinance. Where an ordinance is missing a definition, a specific definition for a word, then under statutory construction laws in Indiana, words take on their plain and ordinary meaning. So the lack of a definition section doesn't deprive it of meaning. It still has meaning. The Indiana courts have stated that it takes on its plain and ordinary meaning. Definition section is designed to provide it with a specific definition. So, and then that definition applies to the interpretation of the ordinance or statute that it appears as a part of. So your suggestion that you adopt a definition from the statute, that's certainly one way of adopting a definition. You'd also
Rifle, shotguns, pistols, silhouette, skeet, trap, black powder, and other similar sports shooting in an indoor or outdoor environment. The area may be publicly or privately owned and operated for profit or not for profit. Shooting range does not include any area for the exclusive use of archery or air guns. So they've gone ahead and defined that. And where this becomes a little bit of an issue is where we define our personal rights to shoot on our property. And is that a shooting range if I am shooting at targets on an area on my private land? Is that a shooting range? That's why this is very important.
So, yeah, so I mean, like, as Warren's pointing out, it would be sending it back with a recommendation that the planning commission hold a hearing on that issue.
The shooting range is a very broad term.
Right, to me, my shooting range is when I go back out and put my targets up on my pond bank and
So are you gonna be?
I shoot with my family or,
So are you subject to the zoning then because you're doing that? You know,
good question.
thank you. So I think it's something you guys might want to really seriously consider with all the other issues that are going on now too, so. Okay, yeah, anything else? The code?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let me get that. I got a copy for you. I got it off the Just Via here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we'll table.
Well, we did the second reading. So do we wanna go back to the plan commission and ask them to add that definition?
Well, the plan commission would be having discussions over what definition or so forth.
Right.
It wouldn't necessarily be a particular one,
Right.
but there could look at
Just
that.
some
and such.
form of
But
definition.
again, I do not see it as a large enough issue at this time to delay the going ahead with the second reading or the passing of the ordinance, at least at your next meeting. You know, if not, you make a decision that you're recommending that it not be passed as written, that it needs to have such and such changes done to it before it would be passed. Which would probably put it down the road at least probably another couple of months in getting it passed and into place. And there is an awful lot that addresses buildings, and one of the main areas that we wanted to get implemented right away that keeps coming up is the solar farms. And would like to have that in place as soon as possible versus waiting another 2 months, because currently we do not have any zoning in place that really addresses solar farms and so forth, or wind farms. And this takes, or even addresses residential solar installations. And this cleans a lot of that up, and delay it and so forth is over the wording on one issue. I don't feel is appropriate at this time.
It's overall right. It's not over. The ordinance.
Could you do it?
So,
Motion that the shooting range be addressed.
To
Did you do that?
the best of my knowledge, the county has not raised any issues with individuals shooting on their own property. That has not been enforced or raised as an issue in the past. And there has been no discussion, and there's no intention of raising that as an issue of individuals shooting on their own property at the present time at all. There's nothing in this ordinance that changes that situation.
It would change what we're already doing. And we would, down the road, like you said, there's gonna be other changes that are, we're gonna find out that we're gonna make this change on that. Go handle them together, I don't do later time.
in the discussions that the plan commission had regarding the adding shooting range and so forth, there was no intent at all in those discussions to be including an individual shooting on their own property as considering that to be a shooting range.
And that needs to be defined as such, because it isn't right now. And I beg to differ with you, but you have taken exception with people that had a shooting range on their private land and used that. And you violated that right. So there is a big question as to, is this a regulated right or is it a constitutional right? What defines a shooting range?
So just the procedure that's brought us here is that the plan commission is required to hold a public hearing on the UDO and held a public hearing on the UDO. And there was opportunity for public comment at that time, and all that was taken into consideration. There were some amendments made, I think, even as a result of that, what was passed at the time. This is a zoning ordinance. It was not a firearms regulation ordinance or a shooting range ordinance specifically. It's a zoning ordinance of general application.
If it said that, then that would be fine, and I would agree with that. But it doesn't define it.
I mean, if you don't define it now and you pass this and you decide to do it later, you could write anything in there you want, actually, without anybody contesting.
No, it has, in order for it to be changed or amended under state statute and our own guidelines, it has to go through the amendments go through the same procedure that we have initially. So there is absolutely the time for another public hearing on it, public input. Has to be approved by planning commission, come back to the commissioners again. So no, it is not possible to change the definition or add it
That's not what he was
without
saying.
those steps.
That's not what he was referring to. The interpretation is open right now. So you could make it be anything it is if it's not defined. That's the point.
So their definition in I haven't looked at the existing ordinance, zoning ordinance, is there anything on shooting ranges?
In the current ordinance, no.
No. So we're it'd be in the same boat as we are right now.
As well as literally
I mean, for that-
thousands of other uses.
for that.
have a specific definition.
Right. For that particular one.
But those aren't presented before you today as a concern.
Yes, there are many other things that are not defined specifically that are listed as being permitted uses or special exceptions that are not, they don't all have exact definitions to them. There's a large category of things that would fall into that without a specific definition.
But this one is listed as an exception, so that's the point.
There's a large number of our things that are listed as exceptions that do not have a definition
I
for
don't
what they
believe
are.
So most of these that you listed as exceptions do have a definition. That's the reason that we're here.
I mean, the date, well, yes, but I mean, the draft was at the 7th of February. And I mean, that's the date on the one that I've got here. So that's the one that people could look to make comments. The public hearing would have been.
And my main concern is getting the solar in place. We have people that are wanting to start the process on the solar fields and so forth. We're asking for a special exception. And, we're wanting to get this into place before we could do that. And that's something that, may be moving forward fairly quickly in a couple of instances. Currently, for example, once you pass this ordinances, there's protections in there on solar fields that we don't have currently. There's requirements on setbacks, there's requirements on having to put a bond in place that if it's abandoned, that would clean it up later and so forth. And so, if someone were to move forward now, we do not have those protections in place currently.
I think we're gonna have other things we're gonna have to add, change as we go along, so it's not like we know or or we have one, but we don't have anything now in our existing ordinances for a definition of a shooting range. So I don't know that we're in any different position. We've identified it. We'll come back and.
You don't even name it. It's not even listed in the existing ordinance.
Correct.
Well, this one says designed and operated. Mine's not designed and operated.
Designing means what? Where's that definition?
Well, I mean, that's the one you threw out there.
Get out to a backstop.
Design to me means like when you shoot trap, you've got your lanes, you've got your concrete. It's an orchestrated deal when you go out.
And
Mine's not orchestrated. Mine's just, hey, grandkids, let's go back and shoot some cans.
I'm shooting into, that's design. It's a backstop. It's got a target on there. I designed it.
Well, good for you. Mine's
I'm
just a
telling you,
bank.
it's covered-
Mine's just a
it's
bank.
It's covered under the state,
That's this
but that's
interpretation.
why you need to define that.
I'm not arguing that point with you. I'm just stating the way I feel about
But
it.
so is more important than a constitutional right, so we can see where you're going with this.
No, nobody said that.
Are you going to vote? A second reading here? That a right now?
What do you gentlemen think?
I'm always looking at Pat. Sorry, Pat, I don't think.
Like understanding that we'll have other things that we're gonna have to do, I'm okay with passing it now. And coming back with those. Like you said, there are
There's gonna
phone
be
calls. Yeah, there's gonna be other things. I mean, there are phone calls right now on solar farms that, the longer we wait, the more of an issue it's gonna be. So,
Okay,
so I make a motion that we forego the third reading of this ordinance with the purpose of passing it tonight.
you're talking at least June. Time you do all this to
We
change it.
gotta- we have to. So we meet in May. And you have to set up a public meeting. You have to go through the public hearing and then. We have to get back together.
July,
in July and August probably.
So we are gonna be able to add the Indiana code. This,
Not necessarily Indiana code, but a definition, right? Not my understanding.
Yeah, our current zoning ordinance has had multiple amendments made to it over time in order to make sure that it functions in the way that it's intended to function. And that amendment process, as Warren stated, goes through the same public hearing process and is subject to public inputs in order to make sure that it's, all done openly and refined for the purpose. So amendment of zoning ordinance is absolutely, it's frankly common, yeah.
okay, I second.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Motion carries.
And I have to make a motion to approve, because that was just before go to the third reading, so. I make a motion that we go ahead and approve ordinance number 2023-03, repealing the Jefferson County, Indiana zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance, and adopting the Jefferson County, Indiana Unified Development Ordinance and map.
Okay, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion so carries. Okay, Mr. Phillips.
Just wanted to first give a shout out to my guys and crews that respond to the weather events. Those are always more challenging when it seems like they piggyback on top of each other, because sometimes it's hard to get all the culverts and everything cleaned out so that the drainage all works like it's supposed to. But they got a lot of those addressed and straightened up a lot of gravel roads and a lot of things that were washed out there overnight last night. So hats off to all them. The project on 325 East is developing very well. I saw several crews down there with NDOT projects and stopped to see what they were, how soon they were gonna be starting on their projects to see how much interference there was gonna be with each other. They were getting ready to move some utility lines, so it looks like we'll probably be done with the majority of that section before NDOT moves in there to do that. Outside of that, that's really all I've got. We've been doing a lot of storm cleanup. It seems like several culverts have been getting done. Trying to keep ahead of the.
Weekly occurrence, isn't
It has been a weekly occurrence. Yeah, last night it looked like the weather forecast was gonna give me till about 4 o'clock and I just almost got caught in between taking care of cows and getting to the house. A couple seconds last night was a big difference, boy, that rain and weather moving in. So, there's definitely a lot of trees and brush cleanup and getting rid of the progress, roads are coming right along. Well, we've got quite a few culverts to definitely still get put in yet. And a few more to address and assess after this when some of the water recedes just a little bit more. When it's kind of hard to completely inspect those culverts to see after you get them cleaned out, whether or not they're rusted all the way through and where they're going. That's the main update I've got this time, because I had a whole lot for you last time, so I figured I better be short this week. You guys have any questions for me?
How we get along down there on Copeland Ridge?
Copeland is at 325 east. That one's the one that's coming along pretty well. So I know
They
they
had the issue over the other night, remember?
Yes, yep, I got your all's message and the signs had gotten moved around. And Kevin Smith had gotten the same message, because as soon as I saw that message on my phone at 5 o'clock in the morning, I went and headed that direction. And they'd already been moved, and I checked with Kevin when I got in there. He said he got the same message and moved it. I didn't figure you guys wouldn't be woke up at 4:30 in the morning, so I just went and took care of it. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you passing it along, keep people safe. Yeah, it's not a good idea. If anybody ever sees detour signs that are pointing towards an open hole, by all means, call 911 immediately.
Yeah.
Because the last thing anybody wants is to show up and find something planted in top of your rather expensive culverts that you don't want to see there. And even worse would be if somebody was injured on those. Those really become malicious acts if somebody sees and catches somebody that does that. So would not be a good scenario.
Okay.
Can someone reach out about cleaning out culverts? Is that the homeowners or the property owners'
I'll
responsibility?
take any and all help I can get.
I figured if they could do it, they probably should try, but if they couldn't get to it, I figured just because of the sole purpose is, well, one of the purposes is keeping the water off the roads, and so if they
That
can't.
is the sole purpose. That can open up an entire can of worms that I am very open to opening up. There are culverts that do get collapsed, that are driveway culverts that we're not responsible necessarily put in, because those are the residents to provide.
That's what this
They
is.
cause damage to the road, and it becomes an issue whether or not we want to pursue the
Okay.
legal ramifications and putting that on their property taxes. So far, we haven't done that, but that is the steps that would have to be taken.
Told them they should try to do it themselves, but if you couldn't do it, then I'm sure we could.
Yeah, I was opening up one today for the railroads. Was it the railroads? Was it the towns? Was it mine? I saw it, so I did.
Okay.
That's why I said I'll take any and all help I can get. Well, not Ron. Yeah, he's been out with me a few times when we cleaned up trees. Hey, Ron, you want to help?
Debris getting up in the culverts and the tree limbs.
Three problems. I like my shade, so I'm not gonna complain about all the trees. So,
It'd be a different story if they all had leaves on them right now with all the wind and stuff.
Yes. Be a lot more
More
down.
down.
very true. Very true. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is the sheriff out there by chance?
He is not, Wes, I saw, I think you went back
Those are
there.
your checks.
Thank you.
You want me to check?
Keep everybody happy.
Not here.
He's here, but he doesn't have anything.
Okay.
Wow.
I wanna do the Lindsay. Wanna do the Lindsay thing, they said. Okay, real quick. The health department is having a medication and shreds drop off The date is Saturday, April the 29th. The time is 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and the location is 715 Green Road. And if anybody's got any questions, that's what we had.
Be on the website too.
Yep,
Facebook page.
to the health department and the sheriffs and Madison Police and health communities of Jefferson County. That's again, it's Saturday, April 29th, 10 a.m. to 12 at 715 Green Road. Any syringes, medications or miscellaneous you want to drop off.
It's free and another, it's another, it's a difficult item drop off, and this one's at the. So,
Okay. You have anything?
No, I don't. Right.
we have a draft, kind of stormwater strategy, how to move forward, that we have some discussion on it this Friday, so. Figure out what we're doing next, but keep looking on that.
Public.
Anybody else?
On.
Put on a different hat for a moment. I am treasurer and director for Kent Water Corporation, one of the water utility companies here in the state, or county, and state as well. I hadn't had an opportunity to appear before you since we received a check several months back, but on behalf of the Kent Water Board, want to thank the commissioners very much for being one of the water utilities that received money from the American Rescue Funds and so forth. The receipt of that money has enabled us to start plans of moving on with an upgrade to our system, which will increase our capacity on serving our customers and additional growth in the future. We currently operate 2 well fields and 2 treatment facilities, one for Hanover College in the town of Hanover and one for the 2,800 customers that Kent has. This will allow us to put in a treatment facility and booster station that will be supplied only by one of those well fields and will supply town of Hanover and all of our customers, plus have room for a great deal of additional growth. And just to give you some idea on the schedule of that, with the funds that we received from you, we've already started our engineering process. Engineers have been working on it now for about 3 months. Our plans are that we will have our engineering done and complete by the latter part of this year. We'll be bidding the project in either December or January, and construction taking place in 2024. So we're moving forward, and the dollars that you put forward will be leveraged with another $2 to $3 million investment towards this project. So it's not just a matter of those dollars going in the community, but the others. And on behalf of the Kent Water Board and its members, really wanted to express our appreciation for the step that you took there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
AJ, anything? You look like you're ready to jump. Buddy.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Hearing none.
Move adjourned.
I second.
All those in favor signify by aye. Heather,